It has been a privilege getting to know Tavon Parker, Mr. TP, as we all come to know him. I love his consistency and his inspirational social media posts. His message is universal, and no matter if you are a child or a seasoned adult, Tavon has an encouraging testimony we can all learn from. Tavon was born and raised here in York, PA. He is a father, husband, son, brother, student, community activist, and a businessman. Tavon excelled in sports and is a 1,000-point scorer at his alma mater, William Penn, York High, where he graduated in 2013. He has recently been awarded as the most influential person in York from YDR, the Hands-On Award from the Trey and Boo Classic. He is a finalist for the Outstanding Individual Award from Downtown York, the Community Impact Award from Bro to Go, the Rising Stars Award from Crispus Attucks, as well as recent graduate of the Leadership York 22. Tavon is going to take us on a journey of his testimony. Please put your hands together for Tavon Parker. The title of his presentation is Changing the Narrative.
Okay, perfect. All right, we're live. Can you guys hear me? Good morning. Oh, come on. We can do better than that. We're live, right? Good morning. All right, I think we got one more. I'm used to talking to a bunch of energetic kids. I'm used to talking to big auditoriums. So let's get one more. Get the energy up. Good morning. All right, come on, that's what I like to hear. So a lot of times when people hear changing the narrative, they don't really understand, they don't really grasp what that exactly means. But to me, changing the narrative means changing our mindset, right? Changing the mindset from an illegal entrepreneur that went to jail for selling drugs to an entrepreneur that has 3 businesses, right? Changing the mindset from a person who every single day I wake up, I owe it to my wife and my daughter to give them my best because they deserve nothing less, right? A mindset that says, in all things that I do, God will get the glory, which means I deserve to give 100% every single day I wake up and not take it for granted, right? Changing the narrative means changing our mindset. But before I get in, can we go give me a click? Before I jump into that, I do have a couple things just to let you guys know. I want you guys to get comfortable. I want you guys to be at ease. That was an amazing testimony prior to me. I have a testimony myself, so I want to make sure that during our time together, that you guys do me a favor. I might ask you to talk to your neighbor. I might ask you to get up. I might ask you to write some things down. Just play along with me. If you guys don't, I got some advantage kids here, so they will. So no harm there. What I need from you, the first thing is an open mind. Right? A lot of times we come to places and we're not ready for the shift that's about to happen. So I need an open mind and I need a willingness to change. What I've learned from my experience is, believe it or not, the expectation, when you come somewhere, the expectation is the soil that fertilizes the ground that your blessing is going to grow on. So when you come somewhere, I need you guys to have an expectation to change. I need you guys to do me a favor. Turn to your neighbor and say, I am expecting a change. That was the wrong neighbor. Turn to the other neighbor. Tell him, I'm expecting a change. I need you guys to do me a favor. When you guys leave here, do not leave as the same person that you came as. Do not leave as the same person you came as. Now that you guys talk to your neighbor, you guys are almost friends. I believe in order to be friends with somebody, you need to know their name. You need to know a little bit about them. So ask your neighbor, what's your name? Where are you born at? Where are you from? What's your name? Where are you from? What's your name? Where are you from? Where are you from? Come on. What's your name? If you got your neighbor's name, let me hear it. Amen. All right, we good? All right, everybody knows somebody's name, right? Everybody knows somebody's name. I like it. Go, you can click through this one. Get me to the end. So when I say changing the narrative, what I need you guys to do is do me a favor and just close your eyes. Close your eyes for me briefly. I want you guys to envision what your best life looks like. What does your best life look like? For some of us, that might be a big house, a fancy car. For some of us, that might be fulfilling our purpose. For some of us, that might be our children being successful. What does your best life look like? And I know they say attention spans are about 7 seconds these days, so after you guys get done thinking about what your best life looks like, think about what does that life mean for the people that are attached to you, right? Your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews, your friends, your workers, your associates. What does your life, your best life look like for them? Because I'm a firm believer that one man's faith is tied to another man's destiny. The things that one woman can do is affecting the generations coming after her. What does your best life look like for the people coming after you? Do me a favor, open your eyes, because it's time to get to work. Go back for me. So now what I need you to do, you guys just made friends, right? Tell your friend, we got to put it in the atmosphere. Tell your friend what your best life look like. I tell you guys now, my best life looks like my wife and my daughter loving me every day. My best life looks like when I get to the pearly gates, God saying, well done, thy good and faithful servant. I promise you, tell your neighbor what your best life look like, because believe it or not, we speak death over our life because we have 80% of our thoughts are negative. So before we even can put our best life into the atmosphere, we kill it in our head, and all of a sudden, we don't even get the chance to put the energy into the atmosphere. What does your best life look like, and who can help you get there? Because this thing called changing the narrative is going to take all of us, right? This is bigger than York City. This is bigger than York County. If you look across the globe, there's some mass tragedies happening. Kids are dying. Families are being broken apart. There's wars, there's mass tragedies happening because of the negative thoughts. So we need to figure out who's coming with us and how can we change this narrative of this thing that's going on and this thing that we call the world. Go ahead, give me a click. So I have a game for us. Usually when I play this game, I have a bunch of people go to this side and a bunch of people go to this side, but I have this stoplight here, so I don't want to go over my time. So all I'm going to ask you guys to do is if you can stand up for me, because what I believe is, hold on, after I read the question. Because I'm a firm believer that we have more in common than we think. A lot of times we walk around with these false narratives and these stigmas in our head, and we don't even realize that there's somebody that lives next door to us going through the same thing. There's somebody on our aisle, at our table, that are going through the same thing. So I ask you to stand up. Do you know someone who has been incarcerated, or have you ever been incarcerated yourself? Please stand up. Take a look around. All right, go ahead, grab your seat. Question number 2. This one's an easy one. I didn't want them all to be hard questions. This one's an easy one. Have you ever been on vacation? So as I said, we all have more in common than we think. You can stay standing if this one applies to you. If it doesn't, grab a seat. Do you know someone who was a victim of domestic abuse, or have you ever been a victim of domestic abuse? Amazing. Here goes another easy one. Have you ever been in love? Yeah, I added that one. My beautiful wife is in the back. Can you guys give a round of applause for my wife, Tavon Parker? All right, here we go. Did you grow up with both parents? Yep, if you did, stay standing. If you didn't, go ahead and grab a seat. And then the last one, do you have children? All right, thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. So I like doing little icebreakers like that to help everybody realize that we have more in common than we think, because a lot of times we're selfish with our experiences, we're selfish with our testimonies, not realizing that God gives his hardest test to his strongest soldiers. And the test that you're going through is in fact training you for the soldiers that are coming behind you that you're going to have to train. So I got this thing called positive momentum, and I got this thing called negative momentum, because believe it or not, it sways both ways. And before we jump into this thing, I'll be remiss, and I almost forgot, so I definitely apologize. But can we do me a big favor? Can we give a big round of applause to my sister, Jennifer Foxworthy, for this amazing conference? Come on. A lot of people don't know what it takes to put on an event, and this is nothing short of amazing. So I thank you for putting this on. I thank you for being obedient to your calling. I thank you for following in your purpose. Thank you. So believe it or not, this thing called momentum sways both ways, right? Because as a chocolate kid from the south side of York, Pennsylvania, when I was growing up and my parents got divorced when I was 6 years old, it wrecked my world. And I'll never forget, because it was me and it was my older brother who's 2 years older than me, and all I had after my parents got divorced was me and him. because my mom and my dad, they was going through whatever they went through, right? I respect it. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. But as a kid at 6 years old, who are you going to go to when you don't have the answers that you're looking for? So I remember it was me and my brother, and all I remember was when we grew up, one thing we loved was playing basketball. So that was our safe haven, right? It was me and him going back and forth at it. And to this day, we're the only brothers in UYC history that are 1,000-point scorers. But what I quickly learned as an adult is scoring 1,000 points in high school really doesn't do anything for me, right? Like, I know you like playing football, but once you become an adult and if you stop playing football, what does all the tackles you had in Little League do? But what I believe is everything that we go through, whether good or bad, are experiences, and if we learn from the bad experiences, we can grow from them, but a lot of times we stay stagnant because of an unwillingness to grow, of an unwillingness to tell ourselves the truth. So I love playing basketball, and I grew up with my brother in York City, and my mom told me, if you guys want to go to college, you have to get a scholarship. So that's what we had to do. And me and my brother both got a scholarship, and I'll never forget, I graduated from York High in 2013, and I'll never forget getting a scholarship to go to Millersville and it being the proudest accomplishment of my life. But what will an unfocused mind do? Because the part I didn't tell you guys is when I was in high school and I started drinking and smoking, the part I didn't tell you guys is all the unresolved trauma that I never figured out and the reasons that I was masking with the stuff what I was doing. The things I didn't tell you guys was the narrative or the mindset that I was leaning in towards was that of a black man coming up in the inner city of York. And to be honest with you guys, I'm only here by the grace of God because I probably should have been dead. But what I realized getting my scholarship was habits follow you, routines follow you. And the things that are done in the dark come to light. So I get to college, and there's no parental guidance. I get to college, and again, it's just me and my brother. I get to college, and I'm not worried about school or academics. I get to college, and I'm worried about playing basketball and having fun. But what they didn't tell me is in college, what's done in the dark comes to light. So I'll never forget, because my wife still teases me to this day, because I had an 8 o'clock class, and I ended up getting an F in the class because when I got to college, they told me nobody really goes to 8 o'clock classes. Right, like I wake up at 4 in the morning now, so I look back like, what was I doing? But the class that ended up failing was public speaking. Wow, look at God. But I'll never forget, 2 short years after getting my scholarship and going to college, I ended up losing my scholarship because the coach called me in his office and he said, the players with the lowest GPA, we have to kick off the team because as a team, we have the lowest GPA of all the sports on this campus. So I lost my scholarship and came back to Europe, and I lost my way. That momentum that I was talking about. Give me a click. I want you guys to close your eyes and think about the lowest moment of your life. Because I promise you, the lowest moment of my life was when I lost my scholarship. All right, open your eyes. Because believe it or not, it got worse. That's why I believe in the power of momentum. Because not only did I lose my scholarship, I came back to York, started selling drugs, started shooting guns, and started being detrimental to my community. But see, what I want you guys to do is take a step back, and there's this word called empathy when you put your shoes in somebody else's feet. Because in my head, I wasn't selling drugs and I wasn't shooting guns. In my head, I was trying to provide for my family. In my head, I was doing what I seen growing up. In my head, I was trying to make a way. But I didn't realize that there's multiple ways. So after I ended up coming back, me and my wife ended up having my daughter, my beautiful daughter. She's back there. She's 7 years old. She gives us a run for our money every single day. But we had a kid, and I'll never forget, because after my daughter's second birthday, she was born February 6th. My daughter's second birthday, we had just moved into a house a week before. So we moved into the house February. We have her party February 6th, and on February 14th, I found myself in the back of a police car. On Valentine's Day, when me and my girlfriend were supposed to be going out to eat for lunch, I found myself calling her, telling her I'm about to get arrested because I have a quarter pound of weed in my car and I have a gun on my lap. And I'll never forget, because she was the whole ways out. I'm glad we're in York because you guys know these references. Sometimes when I go out of the city, the people don't know where York is. But she was the whole ways out east by Heritage Hills. I was on Duke and Queen Street, and she made it there in 5 minutes. Yeah, I would have pulled her over. But that's the power of love, right? Because I'll never forget, the last image I had of her was me getting in the back of a police car, and she's sitting there crying, shaking her head. Because our wildest dream I can't imagine. So whatever you just thought about as your lowest moment, just realize that the thing called momentum is a real thing. And if you find yourself in a hole, the best advice I can give you is stop digging. If you find yourself going through something, the best advice I can give you is get around people that's not going through that. If you find yourself going through something, the best advice I can give you is to find a way to get out of that. Because I promise you, this thing called momentum will start spiraling and you'll find yourself in a jail cell thinking about suicide. And I'll never forget, because when I went to jail, it was the worst experience possible. And she came to visit me, and there was this glass in between us. And for 30 minutes, we sat there in a visit, and we did nothing but cry. And I'll never forget the first time when I went upstate, and I didn't get to see her hold or touch my daughter for 8 months. And she came running up to me as a 2-year-old, "Daddy, daddy, daddy." And I broke down crying. See, this thing called life, there's certain experiences that when we go through them, if we don't grow through them, we'll repeat them, and they wonder why the recidivism rate is so high. They wonder why there's so many crimes being committed. There's certain things that if you do not grow through, I promise you, you'll repeat over and over and over again, and you'll keep praying to God about the same thing, and God keeps telling you, "I'm trying to give you a way out." And I'll never forget, because it was the lowest point of my life, and when I got out, this is why I really believe in momentum. And there goes the first thing to write down. Remember I told you guys to have your pencils? Write this down. The power of relationships. Turn to your neighbor. Say relationships. The power of relationships. The power of a routine. Say a routine. Routine. All right. Go to the other neighbor this time. The power of reality. Say reality. Reality. So what I realized very quickly is the reason that people go back and forth to jail, the reason that people can't progress and get anywhere in their life is because of the relationships they have. Relationships are like balloons. They can either take you up or have you crashing down. And I promise you, because I was in jail for 6 months straight with somebody that was from York, and every day we talked about what we was going to do when we came home. We came home within 6 months, he was back in jail. And the only difference is when I came home, my wife said, "If you want to still be in the streets, me and your daughter are gone." Relationships. Give me a click. So when we're talking about relationships, who are the 3 people you can tell your dreams to? I know you all got friends right now. You got at least one. But when we talk about relationships, I'll never forget, the people that I was doing illegal things with are still doing illegal things, and they're still in and out of jail. The people I'm now blessed to know, Sister Jennifer, look at the things they're doing. The power of relationships. Who can inspire you? Who can make you dream bigger than you originally dreamed? Who can see that thing for you even when you can't see it for yourself? And I'm not just talking about God. I'm talking about somebody. Because I was blessed with a rib. I was blessed with my spouse, but I also have brothers. I was blessed with a rib and my brothers, but I also have parents. I also have mentors. Who is in your circle that can help you, that can push you, can motivate and inspire you, even when you're not your best self? And that's the key part, when you're not your best self. Because I promise you, there's been days when I wake up and I'm on top of the world. There's been days when I wake up and the world's on top of me. Who's your circle of friends? Who's your circle of influence? Give me a click. Oh, this is the big one here. Or you can click it like 3 times. Know the difference between positive and negative relationships. Because I promise you, if they're asking you to do the wrong thing, that's not your friend. Give me one more clip. Yep, we're going to routines. We're going to routines. So catch this, because I didn't realize this until I was sitting in jail. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of us have the same routines that we do every day. And what I learned very quickly is, they told me this in church, but if you look at somebody's checkbook, you can see somebody's priorities. Ouch. Ouch. Because the truth of the fact is, a lot of us have these routines and we have these things that we do every day, but if they're not helping us grow, if they're not helping us get to that next level, what are we doing? The truth of the matter is, I have friends to this day that I know, and every time I call them, they want to smoke weed and they want to drink, and I'm like, hey, I got kids I got to worry about on Saturday. Hey, me and my wife are writing a book. Like, there's things that if you have a routine, you don't have time for. But a lot of times we find ourselves in foolishness and in trouble because we don't have a routine. Right? When we wake up and we take life as it comes. Instead of planning our days out, we let our days tell us what to do. I'm a firm believer in we have to dictate what we do every day. Because a lot of us, and I'm guilty of it sometimes, you wake up and you get on social media and then you see little John with all this money to his ear and you think that you're behind. You see the big house from these celebrities, or you see the fancy cars people in the city are driving, and you think you're doing something wrong. And then you attack the day with negative energy. You attack the day with a negative mindset. So if we're going to start changing the narrative, we got to be intentional about putting things into our routine that's going to dictate nothing but less than the best from us. There's a reason every day I wake up, I go pray to God. There's a reason every day I wake up, I go to the gym. Because if I don't, you guys don't want to see grumpy Tavon. Yeah, my wife tells me about him all the time. But you have to be intentional and be consistent. And one thing I learned is people are very consistent in being inconsistent. I have a friend, and she has a T-shirt business, and I was talking to her about a year ago, and she told me that she was going to do a podcast. And then I talked to her about 9 months ago, and she told me that she was going back to T-shirts. And then I talked to her about 6 months ago, and she said she thinks she wants to write a book. And I said, hey, pick one and choose. We can't be everywhere. Consistency is key. If you want to knock down a tree, the best way to do it is to hit it in the same time. So how long can you do whatever it is that you say you're going to do? And it doesn't have to be big. If you're going to go to school, how long can you go to school? I know kids that have perfect attendance. If you're going to be the next COO, if you're going to get that promotion, how long can you show up to work? How long can you do what you say you're going to do? Because the truth of the matter is, and this is my favorite one, but we lie to ourselves. Give me a click. This is where the reality kicks in. This is where the reality kicks in. Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of people have the ability to self-assess, and a lot of people don't. And with self-assess, when you look yourself in that mirror and you say, I am where I am in my life because of the decisions that I made. I'll never forget when I got to jail, and I blamed the judge. The judge didn't like me. And I had good reason too, right? That's how it works, right? A lot of times in our brain, we have good reasons for stuff. I was supposed to get a 2 to 4, and the judge said no, go up, and I ended up getting a 2 to 5. I got released and had a whole extra year because the judge said no. But it wasn't the judge's fault. It was my girlfriend's fault. She knew what I was doing. She was letting me do it. My parents, my brother. Listen, I blamed everybody. It was my daughter's fault. And it wasn't until I looked myself in the mirror and said, I am where I am because of my decisions. I am where I am because of the things that I chose to do. It wasn't until I looked myself in the mirror that I was able to grow, and I promised myself I would never be back in this predicament. But a lot of us fail to have the ability to self-assess. So think about what you saw earlier for your future. Close your eyes and you thought about what your perfect life looks like for you, for your kids, for your grandkids, for your nieces and your nephews. I want you to think about that. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're not there yet, what can you start doing? Because as we change this narrative, as we change this mindset, as we change our paradigm and how we view things, we start realizing that things don't happen to us, but they happen for us. And once we realize that, we start realizing that things will start happening through us. But a lot of times we can't even self-assess to get out our own way. A lot of times, God already has the blessing waiting for us, and we're holding ourselves up. So I want you guys to look at your life. Think about what can you do better? Who can you help more? If there's an area you lack in, how can you give more? And you'll start seeing that this whole thing starts shifting. The way we view this thing called life starts altering. And the reality is we're all blessed to be here, and it's not something that's not a burden. The reality is we're all blessed to be here, and it's a gift from God every single day. I heard a quote one time. They said, the things that we do with our gifts, God gives all of us a gift, but the things we do with them are our gift back to God. So I want you guys to think about that, because I'm a firm believer every single person is blessed with a gift. Every single person has a purpose. However, until we can self-assess, until we can get intact with our Creator, we can't even fulfill our purpose. What am I doing here? Give me a click. So I'll conclude with this. And I often tell this story. As many of you guys know, or some of you guys might not know, I'm the founder of the Advantage program. It's a nonprofit here in York, Pennsylvania. We mentor youth 7 to 17 because, again, when we start changing the narrative, we go from a kid who loses his brother to gun violence. My brother was shot and killed. I'll never forget, on February 26th of 2020. But the narrative changed, the mindset changed, the shift changes. Instead of going to find who did that to my brother, how can I empower people to make sure they don't have to go through that? I'll never forget losing my best friend. And there's days I wake up and I still cry about it. There's days I wake up and I still think about it. And the only thing that gets me through those days is knowing the Advantage program is intact. The only thing that gets me through those days, knowing that we started this program 3 years ago with 12 young men. Year 2, we grew to 60. Year 3, we went over 100. This year, we started with females. The only thing that gets me through knowing my brother was shot and killed in cold blood is knowing that I'm impacting somebody else to make sure they don't die on the same York City streets. The only thing that keeps me going are these young men and these young ladies. Because the truth of the matter is, it could happen to anybody. And I'll never forget, there was this young man in the Advantage program, and he was getting in trouble, and his mom called me. She's like, I need you to talk to him. He's wilding out. He's staying out past curfew. He's getting in trouble in school. I need you to talk to him. And I'm like, all right, I got it. I'm on it. So I went and talked to this young man, and what I told him something very simple. I said, I'm going to come pick you up at 7 a.m. Be up. So, I try to be like, God be giving people tests. I show up at 6:45. I'm like, I want to see if he come out early. I want to see if he wait till 7. So he came out on 7:01. I gave him some grace. He came out at 7:01, and he was like, what am I doing out here? I'm like, you got school today, but I want you to see something. So we drove down by the Rapid Transit, and for those of you that don't know the city, a lot of homeless people sleep down by the Rapid Transit. And I said to him, a lot of these people are about to get up and start their day. How do you think they got here? And he was like, I don't know, TP. You tell me, how did they get here? And I'm like, well, heck, let's go ask them. So we go up to one homeless man. He said, oh, can I have $1? I said, my man, I don't have any money for you. I just have a question. How did you get here? And he said, my wife died and my life spiraled out of control. I said, thank you very much. We went to another homeless man. I said, I want you to ask this time. He said, sir, how did you get here? He said, my wife left me with my kids, and I didn't know what to do. We went to another one. I said, I got this one. I said, sir, how did you end up being homeless? He said he was a vet. And when he returned, he struggled with mental health, and nobody would help him. I said, thank you for your time, sir. Me and that young man started walking back to my car. And I said, you notice everybody has a story. How do you think they got there? He said, well, they just told us. His wife left him. His other wife died. He was a vet. And I said, you know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like life happened to them. Ladies and gentlemen, all I ever ask is that you don't let life happen to you. That fire that's inside you, that dream that you've seen for yourself, all I ever ask is you never let life steal your hope. You never let life steal your joy. You never let life steal your happiness. All I ever ask for you is to know that life does happen because, like I said, I know what it feels like to wake up and be on top of the world, and I know what it feels like to wake up and the world's on top of you. All I ever ask is you don't let life happen to you to the point that you lose your spark, you lose that thing that makes you you. All I ever ask is that every single day you can be the change. Because they say you can see a candle flicker from over a mile away. It takes all of us to change the narrative. But once you change your mindset, you can become your unstoppable you. I am Tavon Parker. Thank you guys for your time.